And welcome back to the Jewish-Anglican. How you doing? As you can see, I got a mic. Yeah, I got a microphone. Kind of a big deal now. I'm kidding, of course. Alright, today I thought we could look over some misconceptions about Anglicanism. This is something I've been thinking about, and there are quite a few misconceptions. So let's begin with our first misconception. King Henry VIII started the church. This is a really interesting one because it's a lot more nuanced than you would think. First of all, what do we mean by started? Theologically speaking, he did not start the Church of England, he didn't start the Anglicans in terms of theological. In terms of governmental, he did split off from Rome, so you could say he started the church on a governmental level, but theologically, it really started with Queen Elizabeth I. There is a lot more nuance to this. So I would say, King Henry VIII started the Church of England, but he didn't start Anglicanism, I think is a fair, nuanced take on the matter. It's a misconception I see a lot. It is a lot more complicated than just King Henry VIII started it all. Let's go with the second misconception. Anglicans are too Catholic. Now this one encompasses a lot of stuff. Now you have both Protestants and Catholics who say Anglicans are too Catholic, which is interesting. You know, some of it is because the Archbishop of Canterbury is very much a papal-like figure, which is also a misconception of its own kind. The Archbishop of Canterbury isn't the English Pope. While he is the head of the Anglican Communion, he just kind of brings people together rather than actually has any major difference. Another thing is, with the whole Anglicans are too Catholic, is, well, historically, the Catholic Church was the correct church until it wasn't. I'm sorry. That's how Protestantism is supposed to be. It's supposed to be the Catholic Church before it went awry. And I think the Anglican Church encompasses that perfectly. One of the other reasons why people think Anglicans are too Catholic are due to the seven sacraments. The seven sacraments are very much is baptism, Eucharist, confirmation, holy orders, holy matrimony, anointing of the sick, and penance. Anglicans are the only Protestants to hold seven sacraments, but even then, Anglicans divide up into sacraments of Christ and sacraments of the Church. Both very important, but obviously two of them are far more of a higher register. So Anglicans are not too Catholic. That's just church accuracy. Anglicans are church accurate. So that's a major misconception I see. Let's get on to the next one. American Anglicans, especially called Episcopalians, can just believe in anything. They're all heretics and all this, and liberal and gay. And this is only somewhat true. Now, doctrinally, you do have to believe in some things to be an Episcopal priest. Now, of course, are these enforced? Somewhat. I think at least in America far more than in the Church of Canada. Now, what is interesting, of course, is you have very moderate and conservative parishes within the Episcopal diocese that are conservative and are moderate and are, just regular people. There's also the Episcopals for the renewal, which are to bring it back to conservatism. And then Dean Zoomer's entire Reconquista has taken on a Episcopal form. And I know Dahlia, I think that's how you're supposed to pronounce her name. Sorry if I got your name wrong, Dahlia, has made videos about how there are moderate and conservative Episcopals. And I agree. It's just, in my area specifically, I live in a very non-religious area, a very liberal non-religious area. So and if there are churches, most of them are liberal. The only really conservative church in my area is either Catholic or Anglican Church in North America. So I gotta take my pick. So, Episcopals aren't all heretics. Number 4. Anglicans are a white nationalist church. This one is a bit of an annoying one. I haven't seen a whole lot of criticism on this one, but I do want to talk about this one because this also kind of goes back to the Anglicans are liberal kind of thing. While yes, it did start off from the Church of England in an English-speaking country, which is white, and then it spread to Canada and America and Australia and New Zealand, all Anglosphere countries, it has gone on to Nigeria. Nigeria is the largest Anglican community in the world. I think it has even surpassed England now. So it's not just a white-only religion. So, it also goes for the Methodists. The Methodists are often considered liberals and heretics, but if you ever seen the Methodist Church in Nigeria is also pretty conservative. All the major Protestant churches within Africa are much more conservative than America. I think as Americans, we have this idea that our churches represent every church. It don't. Africa has really conservative, really rich, churches. So it's not a white nationalist church. Anyone of any color can be an Anglican. Number 5. Anglicans are Protestant! Sorry, I had to do that voice. This one is, of course, famously used by Catholics because a lot of Catholics on the internet pretty much think all Protestants are just Baptists. Now, this isn't a say for all Catholics. Most Catholics are intellectual, but I have noticed more on the internet that a lot of Catholics just automatically think we're all Bapticostals, as the Lutherans say. We're not all Bapticostals. We do have a love and a care for the sacraments and the Eucharist and the liturgy. I absolutely adore the Eucharist. Anglicans are Protestant, yes, but some people also joke that Anglicans are barely Protestant. I know there's YouTubers done that, but they are Protestant, though. They're the most unique of the Protestants in some ways, but not all Protestants are Baptists, okay? There's Lutherans and Presbyterians and Anglicans who are all great churches rich with tradition. Number 6. Anglicans are too broad. Now, of course, this is kind of the culmination of the previous few. And I understand this problem. I do think it is a good way to have, but I do think it is a great way to have interfaith conversations about different denominations. Anglicans should be the best at this because of having their own diversity. They are able to speak to other denominations with more attentiveness. And I think that's a good thing, I mean, arguably one of the most famous Christian writers of the 20th century, C.S. Lewis, was able to write Mere Christianity. Ultimately, I do think the broadness can be a bit of a hurt on the Anglican community. Of course, I think it can, just like how being too dogmatic can be a bit of a hurt on the Orthodox. But ultimately, with every good side, there is a bit of a negative. But I think Anglicans have a good way of balancing it. Of course, broadness can also mean, is it a via media between Lutheran and Reform, or is it a via media between Catholic and Protestant? I think it was originally via media between Lutheran and Reform, but then in the 19th century, it became a via media between Protestantism and Catholicism. We made this triangle showing what's a via media between, because I thought it'd be a nice little project. It's cool. I posted about it in a community post once. And number 7. All Anglicans submit to King Charles III / the monarch is just the Pope. This one is very wrong for a few reasons. First of all, he's really only in charge of the Church of England and no other Anglican communities. Now, to be fair, in countries like Canada and Australia, they used to refer to the king as the defender of the faith, which did give him some connections to the church. But even then, that was mostly due to that's more related to the Commonwealth realms as a whole than the actual church. And I don't think we need a pope. I don't think we need the monarch to be a pope. I respect the king because he is in charge of the original Church of England, and that is one of my many ancestors' homelands is England. So I do have respect for the king, but it's not because the church tells me so. I think this is a big misconception that people have, that, all Anglicans kind of worship the king, when in fact, I think most Anglicans don't even think about the king at all. I think, on average, if you studied it, most Anglicans think of the king probably less than English people do, at least worldwide, not England, of course. Not to say we should disrespect him, of course not, because that's still the Archbishop of Canterbury's boss. Which, by the way, just kind of a side tangent, I just find it funny that it's been 6 months since the Archbishop of Canterbury's seat has been vacant and no one has filled it up, which that does beg the question, who crowns the next king if there is no Archbishop of Canterbury, and that is the Archbishop of York? So, Hopefully that doesn't happen, but it'd be pretty interesting. Well, no. Anglicans do not submit to King Charles III. He has literally no involvement, other than, like, some places still refer to him as the Defender of the Faith, which honestly is kind of a cool title. But other than that, not much. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any more misconceptions, I would love to hear it. I think I do have a couple more video ideas. I'd also love to hear what you guys want to watch me talk about, because I do have a lot of ideas. A few years ago for my book, I made a political party, and I'd love to talk about that. I think you guys would really like it. I also want to talk about how we as Christians should deal with pagans, because pagans, while I do think most of them are probably LARPers, I have seen videos by pagans because of research for my book, because my book has, like, magic and elves and all that, and it takes place in modern day, so they're pagan, of course. So I did research what neo-pagans are, and I do think it'd be interesting to talk about how us as Christians should deal with pagans. How do we debunk them properly? How do we deal with them? How do we combat them? So might do that. Overall, I'd love to hear what you guys think about this and what other video ideas you want me to see. But of course, I hope you enjoyed the video, and God bless.